We're
you.
live, whether you like it or not. Welcome, everybody, to our Success Mastermind for Monday, the 9th of May, 2022. John Lavenia here with you. Oh, my goodness. Got a lot going on this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of you live and in person at a convention with one of the companies that we work with this week. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to be getting on a plane. We just had a good weekend. Hopefully you did as well. Happy Mother's Day once again to all of our mothers, whether you're a mother or not. My mother would always make jokes. Yeah, he's a mother. But today, being the 9th of May and being a Monday, we do have our book study group at 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time tonight, where we will be doing the conclusion of The Gap and the Gain by Benjamin Holiday? Hardy. Thank you, Benjamin Hardy. So the book has made an interesting impression on the group, and we will conclude our studies and dissertations on that. Our next book is Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. Get ready to go on a ride, some travels. I don't think any of you have read that book before besides me. So, and I've had the opportunity to do a couple of events with Andy Andrews. So interesting guy, funny guy, great storyteller, great storyteller. Anyway, today I want to talk with you a bit about momentum and production. I've been told, and it seems to ring true for me, that the basis of your morale, your esteem, your enthusiasm for your work, the basis for that is production. Just before we went live here, Linda was celebrating with us some production that occurred in her business. And it didn't just happen to her. Like, oh, the gods smiled upon me, and wouldn't you know it? Okay, although the gods smile upon you all the time, Linda. But I guess being grateful for it and recognizing it is where we come in. But when it comes to our business and our work, well, that's something we make happen. So many times, listen to this, guys. So many times I've talked with entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, who I ask them about their goals, and they're like, well, I would like to see, if that could work out, or, if I can do that. And they have some very reasonable outcome that they're considering could possibly be possible if the gods smile upon them. And it's incumbent upon me, because I'm detached from that, that person and their inner workings of their mind, right? Because I can look objectively at that. I could say, well, no, this isn't something that happens to us. This is something that we cause, or not. But every result that we've gotten up to this point, we've had some hand in. Now, if you can't recognize how did I cause that? I mean, look at that. That was a pile of crap right there. I caused it. In other words, I'm responsible for that. Well, a question we could ask ourselves, and it's a question I've brought up here a few times, is, well, what part of that could you be responsible for? You see, the worst position to be in is total effect, victim, not cause. Okay, where it's just life is happening to me, man. I'm the victim. I don't know. I can't do. Hopefully, the gods will smile upon me. Luck, right? Successful people are lucky. Just ask any failure. So what part of that can we find something where you showed up? All right. There's accountability there. You showed up. You did or didn't do something, right? You did an act of commission or omission, right? So we can find, if we're disciplined, we can find what part of this or that, pleasing or not circumstance, did I cause? Did I be responsible for, or fail to be responsible for? Now, when we put ourselves in that position, we also reclaim some of our causation and our acknowledgement that we do actually have dominion over various situations in life, and we can get biblical with all this, but still, that you do have, with your consciousness and your awareness, you're able to make decisions and cause things and whatever. And like we were talking about just before we went live, Linda had caused, and there was a part of this that she was responsible for, had caused some production, some momentum to occur or continue to occur. Momentum is continuous production, ever increasing production, right? And the emotional state that I heard anyway, right through the interwebs here, the emotional state of that was uplifting. It was enthusiasm, good morale, and all that, right? The kind of feelings that we like to have. And sometimes I'll ask people about their goals, and it's kind of a cop out. But if they say, "Well, I just want to be happy," well, okay, well, who doesn't, right? I guess if you just you hate life and want to continue hating life, then that wouldn't be part of your intent. But I think for billions of people, yeah, of course you want to be happy. So if we look at that, so what makes you happy? Just like we were talking about, here's productive action, which increases one's morale and enthusiasm for life and all that. Well, we could also look at happiness as a word, where I can just tell you for myself, and this was right in my first book, I am happiest when I am in high integrity action, when I'm doing something. What did Henry Ford say? He said, there is joy in work. There's no happiness except when one recognizes they've accomplished something. Now, through all this, throughout everything that I just heard come out of my mouth, there was one point of responsibility, point of causation, which we can ascribe to each of these scenarios that I'm considering, or combinations of words, right? And that is recognizing, recognition, acknowledgement, observing, acknowledging, gratitude, right? We're grateful for what we have, not what we lack. So to lean on Linda a little bit here, is Linda happy that she accomplished production? Yes, of course, right? It's not like, oh, I hate this. I can't believe the customer bought. Damn it. No, it's like, hey, they bought. Yay, good for them and good for me. Nice. Okay, so that was on purpose action that occurred, that she can now observe the fruits and acknowledge, right? Look at that. There it is. That's a win. So same thing throughout other areas of life. What did Wallace Wattles talk about in The Science of Getting Rich, and many other authors? Okay, but he's the one that I keep coming back to again and again, because he simplified it in a way that I think is most usable for people. And that is that a deep sense of gratitude is the underlying emotional state that will assist you in operating whatever your methods are, who cares, whatever the methods are, but operating those methods in the certain way with efficiency and effectiveness. In other words, on purpose action, right? That's work, right? That's the definition of work, on purpose action. So doing that with purpose and doing that with faith that you can accomplish, right? So we're grateful for what we have, not what we lack. So really this comes down to like a play of consciousness where we put our attention more on that which works, that which bears fruit, things of good report, as Paul talked about in the Bible, that we think on these things. And then your prayer, right, if we're going to use that word, becomes thank you, right? In fact, who was it that said, if that was the only prayer you ever said your whole life, that would be quite sufficient. Thank you. That's it. That's your prayer. Thank you. And it's not, thank you, sir, may I please have another, right? The military thing. Thank you, sir, may I please have another. Thank you, sir. But the acknowledgement of having this, the acknowledgement of accomplishing, of smell the rose, right? Enjoy the wins, and not dismiss them or disqualify or diminish them because we haven't hit the summit of the mountain yet or something. Okay. But kind of like where we're going, or where we have gone for 3 weeks so far with this book, The Gap and the Gain. In other words, recognizing the wins. If we got nothing else out of this book, we certainly got that like 15,000 times, said in 100 different ways, is that you can measure your progress, not based on where you want to go, okay, but based on where you've been, right? I mean, there's the hindsight, it's 2020. Well, let's go ahead and have hindsight then. Let's go ahead and look. Wow, I was pathetic, and now I'm less pathetic. I was wrong, and now I'm less wrong. And is that not production? Is that not evolving and advancing in life? It is. I think, and this is just what I think that because I wasn't the star athlete and I wasn't the best at the other thing when I was a kid. And because I was being measured against the other ideals or the imaginary ideals, people do this all the time. Okay, you pick up the celebrity gossip rag or whatever, and this is what life is supposed to look like for you, and you're not there, right? So you commoner, you peasant, right? If we've pigeonholed ourselves into that sort of a thinking, we're always comparing to some real or imagined ideal. Can't win that. Can't win that. In fact, comparison, when we get into comparing, and typically comparing our insides to other people's outsides, right? Because everybody's Rockefeller on social media. Everybody's life works. It's amazing. Yeah. Not really. Okay. But but when we look at, the glamour shots or whatever, and then we see how we view ourselves, right? We think amiss. There is that comparison. There is that source for feeling less than. Now, that's the opposite of morale, self-esteem, high self-worth, and the feeling of that. Now, I know that when I feel good, I do good. That when I've got, an elevated emotional state, I also tend to have elevated production statistics. My work goes better. And why is that? Why is that? Is it some magical thing? Is it a coincidence? Like how fortuitous that the gods smiled upon me? No, it's not. It's not. When I have emotional space, let's say, think of it like a box, right? Or a cage or something, right? If you're in a small box or small cage, you got little space, little reach, little perception, right? And the filters are really rigid and intense, and you perceive things from your little box, right? Can you perceive like the other opportunities that are perhaps outside of the box? I know there's a cliche, think outside of the box, but this is kind of where we're going with this. But if I'm emotionally contracted, maybe that's a word we should use. If I'm contracted and holding in, right? Protecting myself, and feeling smaller or less than or something like that. Can I perceive opportunities? Can I really hear you? Mr. or Mrs. Customer, can I hear you? Or am I just introverted and it's all my own stuff, in my own little space, in my own little world? That's how most people operate. Their life, never mind this or that business, right? That's how most people operate their life. But if I've got more space, if I can have a bigger box or, outside of the box or whatever the metaphor you want to use, then I can perceive, oh, look at that stimulus, right? Or look at that communication. And I can see, and I can reach. And because I got so much more space, I'm not so attached to, my little box. I can perceive opportunities, I can engage, and I can advance. Earlier today, I had a conversation with one of my favorite people in the world, and we were talking about advancing their business and how to do so. And we talked a little bit about some of the, I guess, mechanicals or technicals of that. But the big takeaway, I think, was that we do the obvious, right? As well, there's a saying that's been kicked around, say less to more people. Right. In other words, if we need increase in terms of customer base and volume, well, then require more traffic, more eyeballs on your stuff, and that will work. And you find people. Simple, right? So and now that we have immersed ourselves in various environments upon which people dwell, can we impinge upon them and upon their attention in such a way that creates interest but does not satisfy interest? In other words, can we infiltrate? Can we make ourselves interesting by being interested in others? You see, this is an extroverted approach. This is not an introverted approach. This is an extroverted outside out, right? Out. We're reaching out. And then what happens when we reach out? If I'm interested in you, you're probably going to be interested in me. There was a test that was done, like a little case study, where they had this guy on a plane and all he did was ask questions. So he's sitting next to the stranger, right? And they get to talking and they're playing whatever. And the stranger, right, who didn't know that they were part of the test, right? They were asked at the end, what'd you think about that person you sat next to? And they, oh, that's the most interesting person I've ever met. All they did was ask them questions about themselves. They didn't know a damn thing about the person. It was just terribly interesting. And all they did was talk about themselves, but that made the other person interesting. So if you want to be interesting, then be interested in other people. You can't do that in a tiny little box. We can't produce at a greater orders of magnitude or create momentum if we are not about expansion. Back to Waddles, the idea of increase, right? And the advancing man or woman, right? So that is all about expansion. That is all about extroversion, reaching out, impressing others with increase. Now, what we know is that what we put out comes back. I may not be able to account for that all the time, and I doubt you are either. Okay, so here's the spreadsheet, and I put out this effort, and I got back this attention, money, customers, traffic. I can't account for that exactly, but I can tell you that, and we can get into, like, I guess, karma and stuff, but if you outflow, then you must inflow. If the tide goes out, it must come in. That's the law, right? That's just, there it is. Since nothing's created or destroyed, we're just talking about the currents of life. And it's fun and very, esteem boosting when we see the tide coming in. That momentum, that production, the morale of all that, the enthusiasm. Anybody ever seen the movie, this isn't a good example, but The Boiler Room with Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, Ben Affleck, The Boiler Room. Probably one of the best sales movies ever. But a boiler room is a code word for like a phone room where they're all hitting the phones and cold calling and bringing in the deals and everything. Anyway, this was the depiction of a crooked, illegal. They were selling stocks that didn't exist. It was bad, illegal stuff. But the enthusiasm in the boiler room, right, where they're closing deals and making the sales and getting the money and all that. That was real. That was real, excitement for their work. but to inflow, okay, if you consider that example of, here comes the money, here comes the business. Well, you've got outflow, right? So here's the messaging that's going out, the marketing, the advertising, the conversations, the shaking hands, kissing babies, networking, meeting people, whatever it is, to impinge upon the attention of others who are outside of your box. I would suggest that if you want to increase momentum and therefore, your own production and morale and all that, do some high integrity action, do something that can further you. And I can't account for it, where it's going to come back. We've all seen many times, and perhaps you all can recognize this, where you served or attempted to serve this customer, they bought from somewhere else, but then the other customer came in and they bought everything and you had almost nothing to do with it. Or did you? Right? So can we recognize that if you're about advancement, if you're about success and production and all those things, that somehow you're going to attract others who are about that? Wallace said in the book that the advancing man or woman, you impress people with increase. Everyone who meets you knows you're about advancement. And what do we all want? Every living creature. Advancement, more life, food, shelter, right? Survival, advancement, right? That's, if you're the advancing person, well, you're about advancement and everybody's going to know it. But you can't do that if you're down in the dumps, contracted, and not reaching, not impinging, not causing others to know, not being interested in others. I've got, today's a big day for me, and I'll end off with this. Today is the final day that I'm doing a certain collection of business activities and my consulting stuff. And I'm freeing up a bunch of time. Because everything I just described to you about, all this, outside the box and advancing and all this, right? I've done on such a small degree. I could do so much more, but not if my attention is consumed here and here and here and here and here and here, right? Anybody into copywriting here? We're going to do some We're going to do some sessions on copywriting. When I write, I need to be like in my ivory tower. Like nothing can talk to me or impinge upon me, or electronics or anything. The words have to flow. And it's almost impossible for me to do that with so many other things impinging upon me. And that's just me. Other people can, they've done it so much. I'm not like a professional copywriter, but other people have done it so much, they can just belt out an email, and as long as it takes to read the email, that's how long it takes them to write it. I'm not at that spot yet. And yet I know, just like any of you who've gotten really good at certain stuff, when Janet does her calligraphy, it's because she's had enough time and attention to put on that, and practice to put into that, where she can be unaffected. Well, I'm assuming, and maybe you can correct me, Janet, but she can do calligraphy without a whole lot of conscious preparation, or she doesn't need to be in an ivory tower, I'm guessing, right? In a totally soundproof chamber or something. I'm not that extreme. Okay, but if I don't get that focused on stuff, it's not to my liking. So in my world, part of what I've had to do is create some new boundaries. In other words, say no, which is not natural for me. Not natural. Some of you can relate to this, right? I hate to miss an opportunity, right? So if I got to say no to stuff, so just like I was talking about with you about saying yes to stuff, right? To reach beyond and to advance and all that. Well, if you're finding it difficult to do that, not because you hold yourself back, but because you have so many other things that consume you, where's your boundaries? Who is it that said if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none? So that's been on my mind, and I feel good. I also feel weird about it. But you know what? When is change comfortable? Anybody? When is change comfortable? I don't know. I don't know. Even I just thought of an answer for that. When is change comfortable? Well, when you win the lottery. Whoa, hold on a second. Hold on. So here's the person whose path to riches was win the lottery, and they actually did. Oh boy. Oh boy. What is the percentage? I don't know. But the majority of people who win the lottery end up worse off than they were before they won the lottery. That's interesting. So we're talking about developing ourselves and our character. This is the basis from which we operate, and we choose and do or do not, right? Is who's doing it. It's that character. And again, I'll come back to Waddles and the advancing men. So if we're about advancement and we've got enough mental space to look and see, this is advancing me, this is not, then we can start to compartmentalize and have boundaries and understand the opportunity cost of saying yes to that and no to that and whatever. We could start to be more causative in our approach to whatever we're doing with whatever time we've got here. Which is limited, by the way, in case you were vague on that. So we need to make some decisions. Linda, I applaud you and others here who are advancing. Well done. Feel good about that. You deserve to feel good, and then watch what you attract. Anyway, I'd love to hear you guys, your thoughts about this. We're talking about production and momentum and how that feels and how we can create that. Who's got some thoughts? I see Allie and Missy and Catherine and Daisy Edwards here, Gail, Ingrid, Janet, Linda, Mandy, Lindsay, Stewart, Lama King. Who's got some thoughts? Allie, what's going on? Allie, across the pond. What's your story?
Hello. Yes, I just caught the end. I had a delayed meeting, but so much that I've been learning is about how the progress and how we are spiritually needing to grow and expand, and just what you're saying, what is it really makes us feel fulfilled, and it's that progress, that moving forward. that really makes people happy, isn't it? Rather than actually reaching the goal. So many times you might reach the goal and you might have happiness for an hour, 2 hours a day, maybe a couple of days, but that's not. It's that moving forwards. I think that's just so true, and also how that feeling of uncomfortableness. How sometimes if we've got all the wrong self-sabotaging thoughts, we think we are helping ourselves but all it does is bring us back to that place of comfort, which is not where we want to be. It intrigued me how we can be so comfortable in a place where we're not happy in, but that's our comfort zone, and we're comfortable with not being happy sometimes, or even not being fulfilled. It's comfortable because we're not pushing ourselves. We're not doing things. We're not going that extra mile, doing that extra sit-up, whatever it might be, to take you to where you want to get to. And that barrier can just be like a loop, just going round. You hit it, and then your mind thinks of all of these things. Oh yeah. No, I can't do that because of this, and this. To take you back to where you were. I just find that fascinating, in how you have to feel uncomfortable to break through that, and yeah, brilliant, to get to the other side, and freedom and goals and joy.
Well, let me ask you, Ali, do you deserve that? Do you deserve to reach goal?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Because there's the other side of it, right? Is the low self-esteem or the low morale would be, hey, let me not reach, right? Hold myself back because of some worthiness issue or something. A lot of people go through that, right? So if you can be unfettered and just do it, right? Just put yourself out there, then I mean, what a blessing for you. Yet another thing to be grateful for. I'm Ali and I'm awesome. And I don't have any questions about that, unapologetically. So yeah, go be awesome. Thank you, Ali.
Yeah, that takes a lot of time, doesn't it? There's so many things. It's self-esteem, it's your self-image not seeing you there, it's fear of what other people may think of you, it's not wanting to be humiliated or feel stupid, or all of those things, which you have to, you've had X amount of years of your life encouraging all of these wrong thoughts. So yeah, it takes consistency, persistency to kind of change them all again.
Right. Well, you seem like you're definitely on the upswing, so that is awesome. Hey, anybody ever seen, Ali, have you ever seen, or anyone, my daughter got into this series of movies called Twilight. It's about vampires and stuff. Oh yeah, Gail, I'm seeing Gail. Yeah,
I haven't seen them, but I know about them.
Yeah. It's the main girl is like the most miserable girl ever in life, but yeah, she's in love with a vampire or something. And I always joke with my daughter, if she's watching this stuff, I'm like, is he a vampire? No, Dad, he's not. How about him? Is he a vampire? No. So but the idea is that they're immortal, that they never well, they could be killed, okay, but they go for centuries and all this. And so they're all apparently very, 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 very wealthy, because they've had like unlimited time to, like, I guess if you invested in stuff, and you have unlimited time to also make mistakes. This is where I was going with this. How you talk about what will people think, what if I make a mistake, whatever. But like if you know that you have unlimited chances, right? You have unlimited opportunities. They all became fabulously wealthy over hundreds and hundreds of years. And I thought about that as you were talking. I'm sorry that you're not a vampire. Are you a vampire, Ali? No. All right. So I thought about that as sort of a barometer to this idea of if we've got limited time, if you're not doing the vampire thing, well then you might as well take the shot, right? Because no matter what, just like with like the stock market, I know stocks are like total disaster, everything that's going on right now. but over time, you have to win, right? Or real estate for that matter, it's, buy and hold, right? Instead of wait to buy, it's buy and wait, that sort of thing. I think right now we're about ready for a correction. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm totally afield of our topic, but Ali, thank you again. All these ideas are coming up for me as to how we can advance and do it now. Do it now. It's not wait and then buy, or then wait and then act. It's act and then, I don't like the word wait. My least favorite 4-letter word, Missy. Wait. Oh, wait. All right. Who else? We got some people here. More people tuning in. By the way, if you're seeing this on YouTube, you can always catch a 2-week free trial and be a real member right here in the mastermind at jlsuccessmastermind.com. And it would behoove you to do that. Then you'll have a voice in here. We can get your perspectives as well. Any other thoughts on production and momentum and how it feels to create that? Any other thoughts on that? Yes, Stuart. What's up, my brother from another mother?
Good day, sir. Speaking of mother, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and hope you guys had a great Mother's Day weekend. We had a wonderful family adventure. John, a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about shopping for RVs and campers. When COVID first started, we bought a groovy little 29-foot little bumper pull travel trailer, and my 23-year-old son pretty much took it over the last couple of years, and so he's been living out there. But we reclaimed it, and we took a little family adventure. We drove a few hours out to a beautiful mountain lake, spent the weekend, treated Leah like the goddess queen mother that she is, and had a wonderful time. Maybe I'll share some of our misadventures tomorrow, because as you might imagine, things don't always go as planned. But John, some of the stuff you're talking about today really resonates with me. When I tuned in, I heard you talking about personal responsibility and the fact that a lot of people walk through life thinking that life just happens to them, and that they have no part in the events and circumstances in our lives, right? And I think that a lot of what we've been learning, studying, talking about in this ongoing conversation that we've had with you has really been about taking personal responsibility. And it's, for a lot of people, it's hard to celebrate the wins and give yourself a little pat on the back and understand that you were cause in the good stuff, right? And I think it's maybe equally as common, or maybe more common, for people to completely be oblivious to their responsibility to maybe some of the negative things, right? Because it's much easier to say, oh, I did that good thing, and so yay, hooray for me. It's much harder to look at something that has happened in your life and really be self-aware, self-reflective, introspective, and try to figure out what decisions you've made, what actions you've taken that have been cause to maybe some of the not so pleasant things in your life. I have a 30-year-old son who walks through life as the victim, and life happens to him, and nothing, I call it the Eeyore mindset, right? Everything bad always happens to me. Well, guess what? Yeah, man, you walk around with that attitude, and that's what happens in your life, right? And then when events like that do happen, I try to assist in saying, well, what part did you play in that? What decisions nothing, you're trying, and people get really upset about taking responsibility for for the bad stuff. I try not to put value judgments on it, right? But the negative events or circumstances in our lives. So I'm with you on that, man. I think a lot of people just feel like a victim in life, and I think a lot of what you've been helping us to understand is that we are cause, right? You don't have to be victimized by your circumstances. Life just doesn't happen. It's it's not just this random series of events in our lives. As Missy would say, we Goddard it. into being, whether it's, positive or negative, right? We create those experiences. You're talking about the John passage of think upon these things, right? And of course, that brings up James Allen and as a man thinketh, and that, again, that thoughts are things, and we really do create a reality. But you're talking about being grateful and thank you as a prayer, right? And immediately I see that from two sides. I see that as the thank you that we give after events have gone our way, or we've been productive, or we've created a scenario where we've achieved something, or we've created something in our lives, and so we give thanks for that. I'm going to go back to our friend Neville Goddard and talk about one of the techniques that he talks about, just like the pruning shears of revision and all these other things. One of his techniques is the thank you, thank you, thank you. And this touches on the working from the end, assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. Give thanks before you get the thing. Be grateful before the thing happens, right? And then you're more likely to create that circumstance or event in your life. So I often, and as you know, I've had some physical challenges, some health challenges, things like that. So, as I'm drifting off to sleep every night, I say thank you, thank you, thank you for the things that may not have even happened yet. One of my goals this year is to get back on top of a mountain, get back above tree line, right? And that may seem like a silly thing to people, but for me, that's a huge part of my life, is life above tree line. And so for me, I want to get back up above 11, 12, 13,000 feet. And it hasn't happened yet, but I see myself on top of the mountain, and I'm grateful for it, right? And I know that there's a continuum of where that thought is in my brain or in my mind to the event actually happening. One of my favorite passages from Waddles is the part about impression of increase and the advancing man. So thank you for reminding me of that. And I think that concept of inflow and outflow that you were talking about, and the law of rhythm or correspondence, or a combination of the two. And you mentioned something interesting, that there's no way to account for such things, right? And that we don't necessarily walk around with the ledger of, oh, I did this good deed, and so this good thing happened to me, or whatever it is, or the concept that the seeds don't grow where we plant them, or where we think they're going to grow, or all that kind of stuff. But what I think is interesting is that, if you live your life in a way where you're just always conscious about what you're putting out there, at a certain point, you don't need to take account, because your ledger is in the black all the time, and you don't necessarily need to say, draw a line from, oh, well, I did this good thing, so this good thing happened to me. If you just walk through life being that kind of person, trying to, benefit the world and be good to other people, and be of service, to your community and your customers and all this good stuff. Once that faucet starts flowing, you forget about the ledger, let's say. So I thought that was interesting that you said that. And then you talked about vampirism, and I want to say that, and while it may seem kitschy, or that John is talking about like a series of teenage romantic vampire movies or whatever, the reality is that vampires are among us. And you may think, what is he saying, whatever, right? And I'm not talking about the blood drinkers, although that might be a talk for another.
Yeah, there's a lot of alt lifestyle stuff going on.
That's a whole other thing. Leah was reading to me about, there's the whole clubs in New York City where people do that, whatever. But I'm talking more about like what we would call energy vampires, right? And the people that we surround ourselves, or the people that can be in our lives that are just takers, right? And the people that suck our energy, or leave us less than, right? So the opposite of increase, people of decrease, let's say. And I think, once we're aware of those things, then, those people start to fall away as well, right? And I think that we all can identify people in our lives, whether it's present or in the past, that have drained our energy, and so I just, that's what came up for me with that.
Well, it's like the Eeyore thing you were mentioning. So, misery loves company. So, right. Please agree with me about how miserable and how much of a victim I am. That's pretty much it.
True. Well, thank you, man. Great chat today. Looking forward to book club tonight.
Thank you. Book study, 9 p.m. I'll see you there, Stuart, for the triumphant conclusion of The Gap in the Gain. All right. Anybody else before we get on with more thrills and excitement? Mandy. Hey, Mandy.
Hi, John. My side, what came up for me was when you were talking about the forward momentum and making progress and counting your wins and everything. And all I wanted to say to everybody was that you need to do it at your own pace. You need to recognize that you do it. You may take, because I know I've taken longer than other people might have to get to where I want to get to. But I know for me, I've lived with my limiting beliefs for 58 years, and it's not something you're going to change overnight. But as long as you can recognize what they are and then put something in place to actually do something about them, and then as long as you've still got your goal that you want to reach, that you've still got it there. It's the little wins along the way, and those little wins along the way may be sorting out this limiting belief, because you do one at a time, then this one, but it's working you towards your goal. So as long as you can see that you are still moving forward, but it's by your standards, not necessarily by somebody else's standards. Because if you look at somebody else's standards who's moving really fast, then you like to beat yourself up because you're not going quite as fast as they are. Mm-hmm. But it's that you're moving forward, that you're taking progress. And I can see that I'm taking progress, but to the outside world, it may not seem that way. But it's following your own path, but just not letting go of what you want to end up at. Keep working towards it and keep looking at, realizing where the issues are and trying to sort something out with them. Mm-hmm. And that was what's coming up for me. Yeah.
There's no way you're 58. Liar. Liar. How great does Mandy look? Like always. Happy Mother's Day, Mandy. Good times. Good times. All right. Why don't we get we'll have Lindsay have the last word here. What's up, Lindsay?
Hey. What was coming up for me was you're talking, well, it's been a few things, like recharging your batteries. Mm-hmm. And will things move on when you're not there? So I'd been resistant to take this trip. I'm in Chicago, but everything is moving. My kids are at school. Everything's moving on fine without me. And I recharged my batteries. I'm not staying a whole week with my husband. I'm getting ready to head home today. But, I celebrated little wins. I went to a Cubs game. Excellent seats. And, we lost, but it was great. It was fantastic. And I feel like I'm recharged. I got up late. My husband's, he's got meetings all week. So that's why I was going to go home today. And he won't be home till Saturday. But yeah, I missed Mother's Day with my kids and my mom. But you know what? We FaceTimed a lot during the day. My dad grew up in Chicago, so it was so much fun. But I feel like I'm recharged, and I met a lot of people that my husband works with. Everything's USA based, and which put me in touch with a lot of contacts, therefore moving me forward with new contacts for me to reach out to during this trip. So I feel like that was a movement in the right direction. So I'm really glad that I did take this trip and everything ran fine without me.
Wow.
And so I feel like I got a lot of things in. Missy and Linda can tell you, I was very hesitant about coming. I did not want to, but I'm so thankful I did. So steps in the right direction. So.
Who was the opposing team?
Dodgers.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well.
And I've seen the Dodgers and the Braves because we were in driving distance to go to a Braves game. So we've seen Dodgers beat the Braves when we saw them too. So yeah, there's a lot of Dodger fans, but it was still a great game. It was a lot of fun. And even there's so many people around the country that my husband deals with that, you know, he may not be interested in mentioning anything about, you know, the business I'm in, but with the USA, and their wives are though. How about that? So I got a chance to talk to them, and I thought that was pretty
There you
neat.
go. Well,
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day, and sorry your team
Thank
didn't
you.
win, but
That's okay.
you know what you just reminded me of? It's baseball season, and I need to get my daughter to a Devil Rays game here pretty soon. So yeah, never been. We've been to the Diamondbacks, but never the Rays. So now we're in Tampa. All right, good times. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to be back here with you at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight for the conclusion of the book. And go ahead and grab yourself a copy of The Traveler's Gift, Andy Andrews. If you are going to do the audiobook version, do not do it while driving. And you'll see why if you listen to the audiobook, at least the first part of it. You can drive and listen to the rest of it, but the first couple chapters, don't do it while driving. All right. See you guys real soon. Have a great day. Go get some momentum and some morale.